Musqueam, Squamish, Sabertooth, Squamish, Sabertooth. Eli, do not use this.
This makes
Boy,
us
don't
not
use
good.
this. No.
Yeah, I'm so over this. Eli needs to start cutting out things we ask him to.
We can't, we have to start saying, Eli, use this.
I know. How do we start it normally? What do we normally say?
What's up, guys? Thanks for coming back to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay, let's start for real.
For reals.
Eli, it starts now. Okay.
Now we're starting, bro.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Courier Corner. I'm Avery, the community's editor.
And I'm Freya, the editor-in-chief.
If you haven't noticed, we have a new co-host. I have a new friend because Gwen left me to go on a big adventure, and so
sad.
they've been replaced.
Just replaced, though. Once Gwen comes back, this is her position. I'm just here temporarily. I just want to note that.
Yeah, watch your back, Gwen.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be on the couch?
Good. Weird. I haven't been here since the first episode, so I literally, no joke, every single filming for the podcast unintentionally have been in the background, not even planned. Like, I don't manage the podcast. That's all Laura, our video production manager. So I don't know the schedule of when you guys film, but somehow I'm always here and I'm always making noise, and I don't mean to, but I somehow just am here. So it's nice to actually be intentionally making noise on the podcast.
Yeah, you belong here. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
It
Thank
feels
you very
good.
much. Feels good.
Yeah. Now, do we want to do an official welcome into the podcast?
Yeah. That'll be good.
I mean, how you have to do a land acknowledgement.
Oh, right. We would also like to acknowledge that we work, reside, and play on the lands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Lillooet Nations. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
So, how do you say that? As a backstory for how we have grown to know each other?
Yeah. Some background on, like, how Avery and I have met and how we know each other.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been my boss for a year.
Yeah.
You've also, you were kind of my boss a year ago. I was friends with you a year before.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be roommates.
We were supposed to be
3 years ago.
So that is, like, our origin story, is that we met through, like, if you've been on residence, if you ever lived on residence before, you know that there's, like, this portal that you can get into. This is, like, post-COVID, started in 2021, and even before COVID, too, where if you were hoping to get a roommate, you could match with somebody, and, like, you did, like, this little test. Like, it's
cute.
basically
it's like a little dating app.
It's like a little dating app, and then you get, like, your results back, and then your matches. And so Avery and I matched.
We had a super high score.
Super high.
Which,
like,
I mean, like, look at us. It really makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does make sense. Yeah.
We're, like, the same breed of, like, liberal white woman, I feel like.
Literally. I drink oat milk, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were made for each other.
So good. So instead of us actually roommating, we both found other people, and it just worked out. It worked out really well.
You became really good friends with my now boyfriend, and now you're my boss, and we're having a good time.
Living life.
So for our last issue, our concept was sex, which we talked about a little bit last month. But overall, now that issue is out, are you happy with the way it turned out?
I think it's good. The idea of, like, our sex issue started last year during Nash. Fun fact, Nash, I know Matt, like, sprung this information randomly in our first podcast episode where he just, like, had this information to share. But Nash is the student journalism conference that's across Canada that happens once a year. And we're actually about to go in on Friday, and today is Tuesday. So at the end of this week, we'll be in Ontario. And
in Edmonton.
Edmonton. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been doing this also. I feel like you've done that like 30 times.
30 times. I don't know where Edmonton's coming from.
Yeah.
Or oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But it's a good perk if you're, a listener considering joining the Courier.
Exactly.
You get to go on a field trip.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So
I think we're sharing a hotel room, so it's going to be awesome.
It'll be cool.
Yeah.
So last year I went with Matt and Gwen, and during that conference, I don't know what was happening, but everyone was, like, talking about the February issue. I think it was because it was, like, their most recent issue. But everyone's like, yeah, I just did my sex issue. And, like, everyone's talking about, like, their sex issue as if it's, like, a thing. And I was like, okay, maybe we should do that then too. And so now, like, our monthly, February monthly issue is going to be the sex issue.
Yeah, which was so fun.
It was so cool.
Everybody loves to talk about sex. It was a good time. Yeah.
Totally.
And then upcoming we have women's empowerment, which will be super cool, topical for National Women's Day.
Yeah.
Now getting into our episode that we've got, we're talking with 2 student employees and kind of unpacking a little bit of what it looks like to be a student employee, the hope for a student union, which is a student employee union, which is so needed. They had our two guests were Niko and Theo, and they had great insights.
So cool.
It was super fun. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll come back to tell you about our issue.
Cool.
Well, thank you for being here, guys. Do you want to start by introducing yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Happy to be here. My name's Theo, and I am in the Interdisciplinary Studies program in my last year.
Very cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Niko. I'm also in the Interdisciplinary Studies program and doing a minor in sociology. I'm in my 3rd year, and I'm also working at Student Affairs as a Student Affairs program assistant.
Very cool.
Nice. That's super cool. When do you graduate?
I'm about halfway through credits-wise. It's going to be like a 5-year degree, but it's all
Nice.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Been
it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I-
slowly progresses.
I also did a victory lap,
Yeah,
and I think one more.
that's a good way to
Yeah,
call it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
a victory
You're just
lap and
having fun.
another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super senior.
Yeah.
I think this is the term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that way you're getting like more information at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Totally.
More knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it matters what you get out of it, not how fast you do it.
No,
Yeah.
for 100%. There's no
Yeah.
rush. Like,
Yeah.
what are you rushing? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like the other side can't be that great. Like life after school, I don't know what's going to
for
happen.
a,
Yeah.
you want to get
Exactly.
a job?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah.
Boo jobs. I
No.
don't
Don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, do you guys know what you want to do after school? Do you have any future ambitions you're thinking of?
Yeah.
I definitely want to go in the direction of like preventing gender-based violence, but the details are kind of, I'm still figuring it out. I know I want to do something helping people. I know I'm really passionate about gender-based violence prevention. I actually worked as a sexual violence and wellness research assistant at CapU,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I did a
interesting.
lot of the research in the revision of the sexual violence policy.
Right.
So, and that was really empowering. Like, I wanted to do that kind of work since I was like 16 or so, but I was like, what am I going to do about such a big issue? But
Right.
now I'm like, wow, there is something I can do about such a big issue.
yeah. Now you've learned all of the knowledge to like
Yeah.
actually go out and do it now.
Yeah, there's not a lot
Totally.
of jobs in that field though, because it's like no one like disagrees with its importance. No one wants to fund it.
Right. That's
Yeah.
so true. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah,
Just
no one
going-
actually
going to policy.
prioritizes it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys actually get started, like, as working with like CapU University, and all of that, and get things?
I will. My introduction to the like working as a student employee was through the student union,
Right.
which I was a member of the board for a couple of years, and then that sort of that dovetailed into a job working for the Faculty of Arts and Sciences as a research assistant.
Oh yeah.
And so I worked as an RA right up and like through the first bit of COVID on this research project, and then that was that kind of then I ended up getting out of the student union world, and then I've been a student employee ever since.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Niko?
Lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I first started as just like a volunteer, like as a volunteer tutor for my Japanese teacher, and then she gave me a reference letter that got me my first student employee job in the registrar's office as a student ambassador.
Right.
And at the same time as being a student ambassador, I also was the women's student liaison for the CSU. So I was kind of doing that concurrently, like being a student employee as well as being on the CSU board.
Right.
And then through the CSU board, I was on the Sexual Violence Advisory Committee. And I was kind of asking them, like, what kind of student representation is there for sexual violence stuff?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, there should be, but we don't actually have someone right now. So it's basically like, I'll do it, please, let me do
yeah.
it. And then I switched over jobs to be the Sexual Violence and Wellness Research Assistant, which I did for 2 semesters. Unfortunately, my contract didn't get extended over the summer, which was like this last summer with the strike. So it's kind of a blessing in
Right.
disguise.
True.
Yeah. And then after that, I volunteered as an orientation leader, which got me my job as a student affairs program assistant.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good lineup.
Yeah, you've really kind of been around the block.
Lot of
That's
different
crazy.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Nice. What made you guys like inspired, like either early on in childhood or like going into university to actually want to get involved in the positions that you have been doing?
I guess for me I was in a social problems of BC class actually,
I love
which
that
was
class.
with
Who'd you take
Graham.
it?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
with Graham.
nice.
And what happened was there was like 3 of us in that class. There was a guy named Noah Burson who was formerly like a hot shot on the on the CSU, and he was like, "You 3 need to run for the CSU
Nice.
board," and then we all ended up winning the positions that we ran for.
Hell yeah.
And so like that class kind of was the impetus to more like meaningful student involvement. But it was like outside of the university, I kind of grew up in a milieu where the folks were just getting involved and stuff. And
Right.
I grew up in East Van on Commercial Drive, and like there was always community stuff happening. So when I got to university, it was sort of a natural thing. And I think you're missing out on your student experience if you're not involved in some respect.
Absolutely.
And it's just so easy, especially at a smaller school where there is like a pretty like rich community.
Yeah. Cap really has that.
Yeah.
There's an abundance of that.
Did you feel like there were a lot of opportunities open to you when you were looking for positions?
Yeah.
Or was it, I know you were saying like one of them, no one was even like in the position at the time. Did it feel like there were a lot of vacancies, or what was it like when you were first getting into it?
Well, one thing that I really like about CapU being a smaller school is there are lots of opportunities for that, and you can kind of create them for yourself through connection and just like networking. So like, I think there's a lot of opportunities. You just have to be involved and seek them out. It kind of takes more action than like say in a larger school where you're probably like filling out an official form, and it's a little bit more like you're kind of just one small piece of a bigger puzzle.
Well, also with Cap being a smaller school, there are no grad students because it's a strictly, there's only undergrad. There's one master's program at the school, which is a business master's, and I don't think it's ever actually run. But what happens is that you have these professors who are instructors who are trying to do research projects or like work off the side of their desk, and they have to apply for either MyTax funding or SSHRC funding, which is the Social Sciences Research Council of Canada. And the funding that they get are for like a student employee or a research assistant that would normally go to a grad student at a school like UBC or SFU or any large research institution, that those jobs end up going to undergrads.
Right.
So it's like if you become an RA at Cap, it's sweet because you're doing a job that you would normally have gone to a grad student, someone working on like a master's or a PhD, but then there just isn't there isn't the same support. For those students.
That's really true.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because Cap only like has undergrad, do you feel like there's like a sense of hierarchy naturally where it's like first and second years are kind of like, the younger kids, and then third and fourth, naturally go towards like those type of positions where you're like an RA or that type of thing? Do you think it like in your history of working with the university, it's more so like older students working with you, or do you think it's like a variety?
I don't know. I think it's a pretty rich variety. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, I fell into my RA position in like my second year, but it just kind of, I think people like faculty members who are working on these projects are always in need of student employees because again, it isn't a research institution, so there isn't the same funding. So these people, like, they're not able to take the same breaks from teaching that they would be able to, where then they would just be like, okay, I'm going to commit all of my time for 2 semesters to working on a research project. What they end up doing is having to do it, like I said, off the side of their desk, where then the work of a research assistant, someone like me or you, would be really valuable. And that's then when they can, so that they're basically like, they're using a research assistant position as a crutch for a job that isn't allowing them for the proper amount of research that should happen.
Right.
Which is good. Like, I mean, I love that Cap is committed to being what's called a teaching university, because it means that the level of teaching is often really high because everyone here does a bunch of it. But it also means that when projects like that occur and when they come up, there's a bit of disparity, and someone ends up kind of getting held, holding the short end of the stick.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that influence, that teaching really is the forefront of this school. Like, I think, and then also if you think of how small our classrooms are and the way that, like, the teachers really get to know you. And I think, like what you guys were saying, I'm now working as a teacher's assistant for Adele Barkley. We're working on her manuscript together. But it's been so fun because I know this teacher, like, it almost like you develop a really close relationship with them, where when they give you work, like you were saying, that's often on the side of their desk, or like, I think she's been working on this manuscript forever, but it's, as a teacher who's only focused on teaching, it really gets pushed back and has to get sent to other people. But it's interesting how they end up giving you work that usually not only would you only get as a grad student, but it's like, it ends up being really vital experience that you need to go into your field, especially if you already know what you're going into.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's really engaging work, especially like I haven't worked as a research assistant for faculty. I worked as a research assistant for student affairs, but I've had some friends be research assistant for different like faculty, different departments.
Right.
I think those positions are very much found through personal connection and like passion about different topics. So that's a really great opportunity for students to be able to learn how to do that research, learn more about the research, and like learn from that faculty member.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and just also just being able to like put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Be like,
Exactly.
kind of like do a bit of like, it's all about who you know, you know,
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
a lot of networking.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
all about just like
exactly.
networking. And if you stick out in a class, then someone's going to come up to you and be like, work on my manuscript with me. Like,
Yeah,
you seem like you
exactly.
know what you're doing, which yeah, it's nice. It feels good. And then hopefully like if you do want to go into grad school, it's supposed to be a good stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true.
That's kind of the argument. at
Yeah.
least.
Well, and I think also because most people at the school, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people who want to go to grad school, but because you have a lot of programs that kind of set you up for a career right when you're done, I feel like you're getting the experience that you would have to pay a lot more to go to a really big school, to go to that grad program, when I feel like our RA programs or a lot of our like student employees, they give you that experience so that when you go out into the working world, you weren't just a student for 4 years, but you also have like some real tangible skills with you. That's
Yeah.
really valuable.
Yeah, to bounce off of that, do you guys feel like the work that you have been doing for the school, you actually feel like you've learned enough that you can actually go off into the industry and like feel comfortable knowing what you've done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah.
It's a big question.
Yeah,
a good
I've never
question.
worked any big events prior to working at a university.
Right.
And I've figured out about myself that I'm really good at that. Like, I'm really good at like being in the middle of the chaos and like kind of crowd control and event planning kind of stuff. And it also really empowered me from like sexual violence prevention, like gender-based violence prevention. Because when I was younger, I was like, this is so important, but like, there's no way I could do anything about this.
Right.
And like being able to see the impact of your work is so empowering and so meaningful. Like when the draft came out for the sexual violence policy revision and I was reading it and I could see my research being quoted in it, I was like almost tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, my work made an impact.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's
So that's
such a
really
shame.
nice being at a smaller institution. Like you can really see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is, no, it's good to have something tangible.
Yeah.
My current position, I work as a peer tutor in the writing center at CAP.
Yeah.
So for context, for listeners who might not know, like the writing center is a place in the school where anyone can go and get help. Any student can go and get help with any writing assignment. And a lot of that, like that, I mean, you're just sort of taking like front end students who are like either really struggling with their language skills or with writing in general, or it's like students who want to get from like a B to an A. Like you end up triaging a whole gamut of different skill levels and language skill levels. But yeah, like I feel like it would be quite applicable if I were to go on to be like an English teacher, or to pursue higher level English teaching or something. But yeah, it definitely like it feels like good experience, but the problem solving is like the on the spot problem solving is the most kind of applicable thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's English or you're helping someone do like work through something on a manuscript. Like it's just like the real world in the moment trying to solve a problem, which always seems to be like the best thing.
Yeah.
You know, like
You need that for anything.
like yeah,
no
it's
matter
just
what
sort
you're
of
doing.
like universal good stuff.
Totally.
Like,
That's the
always
quickest
helps.
way to learn for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
It's like actually tangibly doing it,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Well, and in terms of job experience, to be able to, like you were even just explaining the work you did, to be able to explain that you were given a level of responsibility and that you executed it well and that you did a job like that, it is really valuable in like interview settings or something. That's always good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go to a smaller school like Capilano? Did you originally have aspirations for a bigger place, or were you always thinking of a place like this?
Yeah.
I went to a small school in North Van called Windsor House,
Oh, yeah.
which was like a democratically run public school, and it was like it's no longer it closed. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like an obscure story.
Why
Weird
not?
part. It closed because it was running a deficit of like it
Oh,
was running
okay.
like a $800,000 deficit, but it was this really weird like school. Anyways, it closed in 2019. I went there. My graduating class was 5 people.
Oh wow.
And
That's
so like
small.
yeah, going to a normal like
Yeah.
a big school out of that small school seemed like a weird. So I decided to go to the smallest university I could find. So that's why. That's why.
Love that.
5 people
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah, it's really small.
My
Okay.
ex went to Windsor House actually, and I also graduated from an alternative school. I
Is
went to
that right?
Mountainside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like a
Nice.
bigger alternative
Yeah.
school, I guess. But
Yeah.
I chose Cap for basically the same reason. I went to like such a small school that was so accommodating that I could not picture myself going to somewhere big like UBC or SFU with like the big lecture hall. You're just like a student number. You don't get that connection.
Yeah.
So I was calling my teachers by their first name in high school.
Yeah. Same.
Totally.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like coming up with my own assignments basically. Like no way I was going to go back to like standardized education with like a huge number in the class. Like that
Yeah.
would not work for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Especially after I worked so hard to graduate high school, I wanted to enjoy my educational experience afterwards.
Yeah.
I feel that, yeah.
Yeah.
My that said though, like my plan, I always sort of imagined that I would transfer after my second year, after
Oh,
I
yeah.
got my 60 credits, right? Because the max you can transfer is 60 credits through the BC transfer system.
Yeah.
And then I didn't.
Mhm.
And like the decision, like I look back on that decision to not transfer all the time
Yeah.
with a lot of ambiguity as to whether I made the right call. You
I
know,
think
I'm
that
always
all the
like,
time.
I'm always
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh, is it? And
Yeah.
some days I'm like, no, this is good. This is good. Like, like I get involved in the community. I'm like, oh no, I feel good about this. Other days I'm like, oh, like really should have
Right.
transferred.
It's like the FOMO of a big university, I feel like never leaves me. Even though
Yeah.
like
Totally.
I love what I'm doing here. I know all the opportunities I'm getting here, like I would never get if I went to a huge school. But like
Yeah.
it's like that classic university experience that I just you can't quite shake it out of your head. But,
Totally.
yeah, but this place is ultimately like I just feel like you're getting things here that like I mean maybe if you work really hard in a bigger school you could get, but it's just feels like a really nice special environment. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fish, small pond versus
Exactly.
small
Yeah.
fish, big
We all want to
pond.
be big fishes. Yeah.
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 Yeah, the big fish effect.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's kind of like we're in our own little clique, like we're own
Mhm.
like little area that's like we only understand, and like UBC students, if like they came here, they would get it, but like we're own type.
Yeah.
Like if we try to explain the kind of community that's out here, it's hard to explain because it's like you can only get it if you're actually here.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's like, like I've been asked a bunch of times to be like, what does CAP do well in like
Right.
surveys and whatnot, or like asked to speak on stage at some promotional event, and like my tagline's always been that it does community well.
Yep.
And like I'm always like that's sort of the I rest on those laurels of being like
Yeah.
no, like CAP does community well, so come to CAP.
Totally.
And that's sort of what I've also told people in the larger community. But the fact that is like, I mean, that is true, and I do believe that. That's not just like baseless, but it makes it even more important that community is maintained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like you've got one thing going for you, like one really good thing going for you.
Totally.
You better make sure that it sticks around.
Yeah.
Or else.
Yeah.
You know.
To segue on that a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
like as students who are actively working in the university, what are some of the pros and cons? Like either balancing student life and also working, but also like genuinely, what are some of the pros and cons?
Oh
Of
yeah.
being
You
student
wanna take that
employees.
one?
Well, one of the pros is definitely that working as a student employee, your supervisors are really understanding you're a student first, and then it's really easy to figure out your schedule like in relation to your class. Or like some of my coworkers, like in the MOPA program, they'll have really weird schedules, and then the work schedule is super accommodating to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the best benefits of working at a school.
Mhm.
But one of the downsides is minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't support yourself fully as a student employee unless you
No.
have like other support systems or like another job.
Not even close.
No.
Yeah, not even close.
No.
And I think there's this assumption among faculty and the administration at large that student employees, they're doing it out of some like goodness of their heart. Like it's like some
right?
charity work that we're doing, and
Well, it is a
and,
job.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
are you
no.
joking? Like I'm performing labor
Mm-hmm.
for money, and
Yep.
and it's not like, yeah, okay, like I work at the writing center, and that's a job I love, and I do genuinely get a lot out of it, but I really like, sometimes I hear murmurs of this narrative, and I pick up on pieces of this narrative that suggest that, yeah, like we're just these kind of like benevolent saints that like have like infinite
Yep.
time on our hands to be like, oh yeah, like let me help you with your project, or let me like help out at the like International Student Center or something. And it's just like, no, like don't take our good faith for granted, because what we want is to be better compensated. Well, it may be true that we're also doing this out of some, morbid, obligation towards doing good work in our community. It's not a substitute for like inadequate wages, like not even close.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Doesn't
not.
it's not like it's like the pizza party equivalent. Like
Exactly.
you're working as a barista
Yeah.
for minimum wage, and the boss brings you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, you love doing this though.
Like, thanks, I
No.
can't pay my bills
Yeah.
with pizza.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like, don't you
No.
love doing this job so much that you would do it for such little money? Like, no,
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
close.
No.
Not
Yeah.
even close.
Especially in Vancouver. That like
There's
Yeah.
no way. No
just
way.
you can't do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So that's like, okay, breaking it down though,
Yeah.
because I don't want to misrepresent myself. Pros is like often great satisfaction, like gratification from a good job. Con, not getting paid enough for that job.
No.
And perhaps people taking like, perhaps instructors or faculty or administration taking your approach to the job in the wrong light, like thinking that you're just there to like be helpful
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, like, personally, what are some ways that you think that the school might be able to, move around so that students like yourselves can actually be paid comfortably?
Well, I think it comes down to the amount everyone is paid. Like, full-time
Yeah.
employees at the university aren't paid nearly as much as they deserve to be.
Totally.
So, like, of course, they're not going to consider raising student employees' wage if full-time employees are not getting paid much either, right?
Yeah.
So I think overall, everybody needs to be paid more. But, I mean, that goes true for all of Vancouver, I guess. We're in a cost of living crisis.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even. I mean, it's just the bottom line is that they need to pay student employees more.
No, exactly.
Like it's Cap makes this big deal about being like one of the best employers, like 2020 best employer. Sometimes you see it in like the signatures of people's
Yeah, like
emails.
every signature you'll see.
Yeah, and they're like, we're
Right.
proud that Cap was rated Canada's top employer, and I always see that. I'm like, no one ever asked me.
Right?
No one.
Yeah.
I never got asked on that survey what I think
Yeah.
of them as an employer. That's weird because I've also been an employee at Cap for years.
Yeah.
And so I was scratching my head whenever I see that, thinking like, who are they asking?
The
Because
unionized staff.
yeah, the unionized staff, and that's why we got to unionize.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
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 And on that topic, naturally segueing, what do you guys think is like the most important part of starting that process of unionizing the school into, having more support for student employees?
Oh, you probably know more about this than
Yeah.
I.
Well, the first thing is just creating more just discussion around it and excitement around it. Because, like, I think a big problem is student employees are really kind of compartmentalized. And we put so much work into our work. And we put so much value into the school. Like, I've worked at a couple different departments, right? Like, when I was working as a student ambassador, we'd be the ones giving student tours, like booking
Right.
everything, meeting them, like following up with emails, like clearing the inbox for like the regular registrar's office inbox, and just like following up with stuff that the full-time staff need support with.
Yeah.
And then at student affairs, like we do so much of the event planning. Like as a student affairs program assistant, all of us have kind of different portfolios based on like our like skills and passions.
Yeah.
But it's very much student led, right? And like I've never worked at the Career Development Center, but you see so much work that those student employees are putting in too. Like if you've seen their Instagram, they're putting out fantastic content promoting the workshops. That the workshops are led by the full-time staff, but the students are the ones getting people in there, right? And we put so much value into the school and make sure everything is like actually taken care of. But because like we're not like unionized, we're not part of that, we don't get any of the benefits or any of the rights.
Right.
And that became very clear when in the summer the Move Up union went on strike.
Yeah.
Because then student employees weren't even considered at all. And like there's like some student employees were still working because they had exempt staff in their department, so then they could get direction from them. But then there's other departments where their supervisors are on strike, so then their supervisors can't schedule them for any shifts.
Yeah.
And then like student employees either lose their jobs or have to take up the work of the full-time staff.
Yep.
And without any of the benefits, as well as like it was kind of frowned upon for student employees to work because that's crossing the picket line, even though student employees aren't unionized, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for student employees just to be connected in that sense.
Yeah.
Because like there's so much like dissonance, whether it's like the way their work functions with like supervisor kind of stuff, or like in events like strikes, like what do student employees even do? How do they go about it, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first step, more solidarity.
Yeah.
Just
among
like
student
discussing it,
employees,
like connecting, talking
getting them
about it.
connected.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because I don't even know who I don't know how many student employees there actually are.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
that's a figure that I was trying to figure out the other day.
Yeah.
Right.
Between like there's probably a bunch of projects happening in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences between like creative writing, and then
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff happening
Yeah.
in kinesiology and like
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, so I wonder what that figure actually is. And
Yeah.
because that would be an important first, that would be like something we should figure out.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
like
It's really
How
hard
many
to
of
count
us?
the research assistants because they're all kind of like individually hired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whether
And
it's
very
like
casual,
the
yeah.
department or the dean or like a specific faculty member, as well as it's a contract job. It's not an ongoing basis
Yeah.
job, right?
Totally.
So those ones are really, really hard to
Yeah.
count. Right now in student affairs, I'm
Precarious.
helping organize the peer leader appreciation event.
Oh,
And
yeah.
last semester, my coworker was organizing it, and it was a challenge just to find a list of all the different student employees.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting like the research assistants, right? Because
Yeah.
that's
Right.
what kind of different area. And then there's like regular student leadership with volunteering too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so hard to even track down what types of student employees there are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. No, I think that's like the first step in unionizing, is like making sure that we collectively can all like come together and talk about like, you know, some of the issues that are happening today and in this specific school as well.
mhm.
Definitely.
Even just getting like every student employee to be aware of the fact there's a
Yeah.
union. Like before we decided to do this, I had no idea it was even a possibility. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it is like number one, a matter of getting everybody to know about it. And then also
Yeah.
like you have to try and track down that number, but it's also hard when so many students at Capilano are moving so frequently. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the one thing, we do have a good community while people are here, but people definitely don't stay for long. Typically you have like a lot of students transferring, or you have it can just, I think, be hard to get like one solid group. But
There's a lot of diploma programs too. So
Yeah,
like people
exactly.
are like out in like a year or two often if they're not doing a bachelor degree.
Yeah. There's not really a lot of incentive to stay if they don't have to, and if they don't really want to. And in that case, you know, there's not a whole lot of community engagement in that way as well. Like,
yeah,
Not a lot
which
of
makes it
incentive.
hard for stuff like this.
exactly. Yeah. But for you guys, for what you guys already know, what are some ways that students can actually start to getting unionized, other than just like talking and making sure everyone is able to coordinate more?
So
Yeah.
when I was originally doing research for this, when I first had the idea, it was sparked by UBC and SFU's student unions, SFU and UBC student employees unionizing.
Right. Yeah.
And on UBC's website, they actually made like a whole list for the process,
Oh, hell yeah.
right?
That's sick.
So I wrote it down here.
Love it.
So the first step is setting up a union organizing committee. I think that's what they called it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then, then you have to do this card signing campaign.
Right.
Which
right.
it's, I forget what the abbreviation is. I think it's like Canadian Union something, but there's
Yeah.
this big organization that will support you in unionizing.
Cool.
But you basically have to get 55% of members to sign these cards. They're not like physical cards, it's like a digital thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell the university or your employer if you do it. But
Love
then
it.
with more than half signing on to it, then you can officially like submit your application to unionize there. And then you bargain for a collective agreement, which can take who knows how long.
Right.
And then after
Couple
that,
years.
then it's just about enforcing the agreement.
Yeah.
So like it's a lot to do, but it's possible. There's
Yeah.
very clear steps outlined.
Nice.
It's a big thing to take on. It's not going to be easy,
No,
but it's
totally.
definitely possible.
Yeah, it makes sense too, though, because like Cap has a super strong faculty union, and they're kind of known for that throughout the province. And then we also have a student union that like punches above its weight class and has for
Yeah.
a long time. Like a one that, given the size of the school, does so well. So it seems like my thinking is like, oh, is Cap really big enough to have like a student employee union?
Yeah.
But I think one might be warranted. Like it might really, because I presented recently to the CSU to get them to take on a campaign to advocate for an increase in pay for student employees.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was like a good sort of opening salvo, like a good first step. But if that doesn't happen, like if they're not able to make any headway, I don't see there being any viable option other than to just unionize.
Yeah, totally.
Which, yeah, like you said, it would be kind of a lengthy process. But as it stands, for example, TSSU at SFU, which is the name of the student employee union at SFU, they're really strong. They do a lot of good work. And I think they make their, like, its standard is $25 an hour, which is almost double, or which is almost $10 more than what student employees. We make student employees at Cap make $16.75 an hour, which is
crazy.
I think that's pretty much minimum wage.
I think so.
I think it
What I
is.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get a
Yeah.
raise as minimum wage went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we like if you look at the way that inflation has been working for the last 2 years, post-COVID inflation, we've actually experienced a wage decrease.
Yeah.
Our wages, if you factor that in, our wages have actually gone down, and the university's done nothing about it. And yeah, they like that's why it kind of undermines, and at least in my mind, it's really been undermining this like warm, cozy, like Cap has a good community narrative they always try to spin, which like is the only thing they have going for them, like I said. And it's like, okay, well, you guys better make good on this, because I really do think that this is like a post-COVID thing. Like, like I've been here since before COVID, and kind of, they need to get their shit together.
They do. Yeah.
Post-pandemic, if they want to maintain some of the most important aspects of what makes the school like unique and different from other schools.
Yeah.
And
I can speak to that a bit. Like I came here and visited CapU for the first time in 2018, I think, or 2017. And since then, I've been here for a long time, and I started schooling actually in 2020. And just the community has changed a lot. And I think the starting of unionizing and building that community more and more, and like actually helping our student employees, which is like a big part of our community, honestly. It's what helped run everything. And I think that's an incredibly important thing to actually get started going. And so something that just came to my mind is that we do have some younger listeners here who might actually not know what unionizing is at all. Do one of you want to explain, like, just like the basics, like 101?
Well, I've never been in a union, and I had no idea how unionizing works. So when I was researching it, I was really starting from like square zero. Yeah. But in its simplest form, it's basically like collective solidarity within a workplace, so that you can collectively bargain to your employer for things like benefits, wage increases, and it's legally backed. So then, like, if you're allowed to go on strike, the government will back you up if you do that. And I don't know too much about the history of unionizing in general, but it used to be like really frowned upon, and then people like had to protest and unionize and fight for the right to just unionize. And
if it wasn't for labor unions, we wouldn't have the weekend.
True.
We wouldn't have Saturday and Sunday.
So true.
Yeah, which is, and I don't mean for our younger listeners the weekend as in the artist. I mean like the end of the week.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. Remember that thing?
Those are active.
We love the weekend. I'm a big fan of the weekend.
We get to sleep and reset our lives then.
Sweet. Labor unions are great.
Yeah. Super cool.
And also technically we're all inherently members of the CSU.
True.
Because we pay, everyone is a member of the CSU because we pay student union fees.
Exactly.
Although technically it's a non-profit organization.
That is true.
Which, like, it's still collectively fights for like student rights and things like that, but it's not like a technical labor union. So, like, if student employees were to unionize, I feel like there's a couple options. There's like the real union route, but then there's also just like a student association kind of route where we'd still have that collective voice, but it wouldn't be like a real labor union.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe for some of the listeners who are also student employees and also want to start maybe the process of unionizing, what can they do? Who do they contact, or how do they also get the ball rolling in that sense? Yeah.
Well, that's really tough. That's something I've been thinking about for like more than a year. I tried making this like WhatsApp group chat, just like with student.
I remember that.
I messaged you. I'm like,
totally.
Hey, are the Courier employees student employees?
I mean, kind of, basically. I mean, we get funding from the school, so.
But basically it would just be like talking to each other, connecting, organizing, having like some kind of Zoom meeting about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the first stages, like the very early stages are just connecting with each other and talking.
Totally.
There needs to be like some level of leadership, organizational leadership, to like book meetings and things like that, and like create an agenda and discussion things and collect discussion items. But the very first stage is just like talking to each other and thinking, like, what would we want out of it? Is this something we want? When I was talking with some old coworkers about it, one really great idea he brought up to me is, like, if we can't get like wage increases, what if we get like time ticketing priority? And I was also reading the SFU Student Employee Union. It's TSSU, I believe.
Yeah, TSSU.
Yeah, one of their benefits is they like a tuition deferral, that as long as they pay their full tuition by the end of the semester, like they're good. Right. They don't need to pay it by like a fee payment deadline.
Yeah.
So like we might not get wage increases, but we can like advocate for other kind of benefits, right?
Yeah, which is also important. You know, I mean, money is always nice. But
and like time ticketing priority, that'd be to the university's benefit, because then if we could get the classes we want, they can schedule us to work.
Yeah. That is so true. It's benefiting everybody.
Because varsity athletes get the time ticket. They get a really big time ticket priority.
Yeah.
Which would be sick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I played sports right now. That's awesome.
Yeah. We should all become athletes. Student athletes. That's the ticket.
There we go.
Not working for the school. Play sports for the school.
There we go.
That's literally slavery. No. In this down in the States, it's literally student slavery. They don't pay them.
I bet it's
really
insane.
Intense. It's crazy how much money they profit off of. Then they don't pay them a dime.
Yep.
They're like, well, we can't pay them.
Literally exploiting labor.
And they're like in video games.
Especially for those major universities. Like
yeah.
They're like you're going into the NBA, and next year you're gonna be making $8 million a year. But we can't pay you because you're a student.
Sorry.
Sorry. So awkward.
My bad.
Yeah. Crazy. That's a whole nother bag.
Very interesting.
Advocate for those guys.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Another person to talk about.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for sitting down and chatting with us.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah,
it's been a blast.
You.
Do you have any final notes? Any final things you'd like to say?
If you're a student employee and you want to get organized, email me, Theo Abbott at my.caplinau.ca.
Eli, put a little thing.
Yeah, right here. Email this, and that's mine.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Cool. Well, that was a super fun segment with our guests. It went really, really well. I think it flowed really, really well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We sat after we finished chatting. We had a really nice, very long conversation with them. They're so easy to talk to.
Totally.
Yeah, it was good.
It was really fun. Very insightful. Like, I know quite a bit about unionizing and everything like that, but like even then, I learned so much from there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because are we, as courier workers, are we a part of that, or are we separate student workers?
We're separate. So we aren't really a part of the Capilano Student Union or the Capilano University in any way, other than the Capilano University does fund us. We do get funding from them. But
you all fund us in your tuition every month.
Yep,
every
exactly.
year.
If you didn't know that, you do, like, depends on the amount of credits that you have, but a portion of your oh my god, you just said it.
Yeah, of your fees and everything.
Of your fees. But the reason why it is part of your fees is because then we can give you these issues like this for free.
Yeah, which is sick.
So, and these, like, naturally, if we were like charging you for them, they would be like $15 each. So if you see them around on shelves, grab them because they're free for you guys because you're paying for them, really, part of your fees.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a huge team of people working on them
there's
for you. So
plenty of us.
Just at least skim it, you know?
So even if you don't want to read it, there's beautiful artwork.
Really pretty pictures. You can put them on your wall.
Yeah.
Just please
rip out the paper.
Please take them.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
Do some collaging.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if we want to look back on our last issue, are there some people, or are there maybe some articles that you want to shout out from February?
Hell yeah. Definitely. So for illustration, I do want to shout out, my computer is having a bit of a moment. We don't have our physical copies of our issues right now. They will be on stands really soon. I swear tomorrow for us, they'll be on the stands. They're a bit late just because of our printers had a little bit of a hiccup.
Yeah.
But I would like to shout out Selena Zong, who is one of my classmates, actually. Shout out to Selena. She's been an active contributor and illustrator for us for a very long time. Even before I worked here, she was illustrating. So it's a pretty big deal. She's graduating with me now. And she's been illustrating the airplane mode column and has been doing that since September. So it's been a while. But I love the illustration she did. I don't know. Can you see that, Dylan? Is that on the screen? Yeah. So this is the illustration that she did for February's airplane mode column.
Yeah, it's so cute.
And it's so cute. It has a little airplane toy by the side of the tub. It has
Some
little
hearts
tea lights
to
on
put you
it.
in the mood. Yeah.
It's so cute. So I think that was done really, really well. And for writers, because Gwen isn't here, I am going to be shouting out her section, which is Arts and Culture. And I would like to shout out Ashleigh McRae and the article Love and Other Vices, which goes in detail about a little short guide to all the sex shops in Vancouver, which I think is so cool and so fun.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to support sex shops in any way is to support small business sex shops in any sort of sense. It's the best way to help the community thrive.
Yeah. Take advantage of that experience while you have it, because those, sadly, businesses like that are not on the come up anymore. So
Exactly. And there's 5 of them here. There's 5 different sex shops that you can view here. So this is the page. Let me see what page it's on. It's on page 46 and 47 if you want to take a peruse.
yeah.
If you actually don't have any of our physical copies, and maybe you're like a virtual listener that is not near Capilano, but you would like to see our issues, you can go to issuu.com, ISSUU/Capilano Courier, and you can view all of our issues all the way back to like 2009. We have our whole archive there. Not our whole archive, because we've been here since the 60s, but
Yeah, but lots. And I
But
mean,
lots.
also, of course, on our website, there's tons of stuff to check out.
totally.
And then for my section, communities, we're going to talk about Terrence, our business manager, who we love. He's great.
Shout out to you, Terrence.
Love you, Terrence. You're so nice.
So
Um,
cool.
Terrence also is a really great writer, which was something I wasn't expecting. His
Yeah.
writing skills they're concise. They're so interesting. He added these really great anecdotes, and I was like, what a great guy all around.
So
yeah.
cool. Shout out to you, Terrence.
Mm-hmm.
You're keeping us afloat.
Yeah, it's a fun part about working at the Courier is that you see a lot of people who are interested in writing, but you also see, especially students who have an interest in writing or have an interest to tell their stories, but like usually don't get a place to. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
As you as a writer working on this sex issue, what was like some of your favorite things? What I like to say is like my peaks and pits. Some of,
Peaks
like,
and pits.
your favorite points of writing in this issue, and then some of like your maybe not so happy moments.
I don't know. The Reader's Digest one, that is the one that I wrote in my section this month, and it was so fun. I got to I think it's very obvious when I write stuff that I can get really nerdy about writing and really nerdy about literature.
Yeah.
And I've started to develop my sassy writing voice again, which we love.
Pop off. Hell yeah.
And I was kind of going on like this silly little tangent, and I start the article with like, grab your tissues, guys, Reader's Digest Canada's closing down. And I think it's fun to have a publication that lets you get a little silly. So that was my highlight. And is it pit or
It's
pith?
your pits.
My pits are not my armpits, my pits. My pit for this month. Oh, I didn't get to get an interview with the writer that I wanted for my column, so I ended up
Right.
doing like a research base, which was fine because I tried to do with Sarah Bernstein as well, and also had to do research, which I mean she just won the Scotiabank Giller Prize. I'm not surprised, but I was really hoping for this interview, but that's kind of the nature of work like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not always gonna get it. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. I've also been illustrating for Avery's column lately, and it's so much fun.
Thanks.
It's so cool to like just pick out, like see what you've picked out to like highlight, even if it's just like a genre or if it's
Yeah,
like
we
a
were
book.
texting yesterday.
Yeah. I was like, what's your theme for March? Because I need to like sketch ASAP, please. I'm sorry, Andy.
Mhm.
And you were like, yeah. Do you want to spoil it? Or
No,
do
you
wanna-
say it.
It's
Okay, I'll tell you. It's sorry to do that to you. It's okay. I don't know if any of you really cool people are on Book Talk by any chance, But if you're ever, it's really fun and terrible down there.
It's interesting.
It's a crazy place. But on Book Talk right now, or at least in the last couple of months, these primarily teenage girls, young adult people, like kind of people around our age, are obsessed with these like Canadian hockey rom-com Wattpad style books.
Yeah.
Where it's like, ooh, he's like a hockey guy, and I'm just a ballerina girl. And
So interesting.
It's, like straight out of Wattpad and put into Indigo, and they're selling like crazy. So I'm writing about a couple of them, but there's one in particular that I found on Indigo. I may have found it 10 minutes after you texted me, but that's what I'm doing. So,
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. So keep your eyes peeled for that for sure. For some
Super cool.
spicy romance.
Yeah, I was looking at illustrations like I was looking at covers for inspiration for the illustration, and they're all illustrated the same. But it's like different illustrators doing the covers, and it's different writers, but it's like same style where it's like just flat vectorized illustration, and it's like a little girl like.
Yeah, and like
then
white
a guy,
hockey boy, like
It's
yeah,
like, what?
People love 'em.
Like, I feel like the pendulum just swung the other direction of like empowering women and like you go girl, and then it's like I'm a little ballerina.
I'm just a little girl.
And
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome too. If you want to be a little ballerina, rock on.
We've all
That's
been
sick.
there, yeah.
We've all been there. But it's just interesting. Like
Yeah.
literature is just swinging a different direction right now.
It's fun. Yeah, with
It's
only
cool.
some people. Anyway, well,
Yeah.
I'll just tell you about it in my
Another
column,
thing.
but I'm having a good time, as you can tell. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And I also think we got some listener questions.
We did.
Yeah.
So
As we know, the lovely Freya here is not only the big boss, but has also been a guest of the first one and now is a host of the second and is going to be the host of the last one. So do you feel like having a lot of range on the couch, you're on this side, you're on this side, you're over there, do you feel like you have a preference over behind the scenes for the podcast as a guest or as a co-host?
I don't know. I feel like because this is my first episode as being co-host, I don't really have too much experience, but I've also only guested once. But I feel like personally I do like being a guest a little bit more because there's less pressure and I can just relax, and it's just you and Gwen just like spewing questions at me. I'm like, yeah, I can answer that. No problem.
So, yeah.
And then like, I don't know, with the interview we had with Theo and Niko, it was so much fun. It was so cool to like feel that like journalism energy. And like as an artist, I'm not to out myself or anything, as editor-in-chief, I'm not much of a journalist. I have dyslexia and I'm terrible at writing. I don't write shit for the Courier. I'm sorry. I illustrate more than I write. I write a letter to the editor every issue, and that takes me like 3 weeks to write. So it's a bit much, and it's only like 300 words.
And you kill it every time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I feel like having that sort of energy of like having that list of questions, this is a little behind the scenes for you. Laura, our lovely video production manager, writes us a script for every single issue, or sorry, not issue, but every single podcast episode. And in there, we have like a bunch of different detailed questions to ask our guests. And so along the side, we also have like our little iPad here that Laura's given us that have
we need our iPad.
with the script here. And so like I felt like such a journalist there interviewing them, where I was just like looking down at my notes and be like, so on the topic of unionizing, let's discuss it. And it's like the second they say union, I was like, hook, I'm gonna catch it and I'm gonna talk about unions now. And I felt like such a journalist. It was so cool. So I love being co-host, but I also love not having the pressure of just relaxing and like also being able to just watch you guys do your thing and also make weird noises sometimes by accident and just like letting that happen. It's also cool, but I think personally I would prefer to be guest. I don't know. What about you? What do you personally think?
I've literally only ever been a host for everything. I feel like you with art. My brother's a great artist. I like am actually the worst artist in the entire world, and I'm great at writing though. That's like that's my bread and butter. It's like the only thing I do. So I think always being a journalist and always being on the side where you're interviewing people, and if you can't tell, I like the control of it. I definitely like all the attention.
Hell yeah.
I'm outing myself as wanting attention all the time. But I think there's something fun about getting to control the conversation and getting to change the way that people react.
Totally.
Because it makes you, like you were saying, with like hooking people,
Yeah.
it makes you realize, especially in a conversation where that's being recorded, that like you have so much influence over not only the way the conversation goes, but the way that the people feel, the way that they feel to talk, and like, I don't know, it's really interesting. Being a podcast host, I get why like so many people have podcasts, because it makes you it just gives you a lot of interesting control. I think I'd be sad if I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Maybe lastly, sneak peek into our upcoming issue. What is we know it's women empowerment. Are there any articles that you're looking forward to? Anything you know about?
Well, I'm illustrating the cover for the first time in my whole entire year of being with the Courier.
That's so exciting.
So it's very emotional because it's like I've wanted to illustrate the cover for so long, and like the second that I even like started as like staff photographer, I was like, maybe one day they'll put a photograph on the cover, which the Courier has never done since like.
But maybe one day.
And so that day has come, and I'm very sorry to our production manager, Andy, for putting up with me because I am literally weeks late with my sketches. But we're getting there, and it's going to be really cool. And the cover piece is highlighting the history of women EICs in the Courier, and that came up to my mind one random night where I was talking with our board the chair of our board, Hassan, which shout out to Hassan. He's so cool. He's so fun.
Yeah,
He's really cool. And we were just signing checks late one night, and like we were talking about all of the different ideas of like articles, and I was like, oh shit, we just had pitch proof. I can't really pitch these articles now. And then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna text the group chat and see if people are
the boss. You can do
that. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And that's what Hassan said. He was like, just pitch it and go for it. So I did. And then it got picked up by Bridget, our news editor, immediately, and she's like, yeah, I'll write it. And I was like, okay, what if we turn it into the cover piece? And she's like, yeah, do it. I was like, okay.
That's so cool.
So now we're doing it. So that's super fun. Watch out for that. It's a really cool interview where we highlighted, I think it's 6 different past female EICs, and we've had many other women at EICs, and it goes all the way from last year, the most recent women EIC other than me, which was Alicia, and then that goes all the way to like I think it was 2010. So it's really cool. It shows a lot of perspective.
Up until from the 60s until 2010, was it all men or was it?
No.
Okay.
No, there was other EICs. Oh my god. No,
that
it's
would
just
be
like
crazy.
that's just
no women.
no. And then 2010 hit, and then it's like, ooh, women.
Which like makes sense for the timeline of life, but like that's crazy.
Yeah. No, there was a lot more other women EICs, and I tried to like get them all in, but then we're just like, we don't have that much room.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, sure. I even said, I was like, if you want to interview me, that'd be cool because it's like current and past. And she's like, we don't have room. I was like, that's fine. I'm illustrating it, so it's not a big problem.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna be a really cool one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. What about you? What any other articles that you're excited for that?
Oh my
issue?
god, just so many. Literally just so many.
Yeah.
Like all of them. I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting issue. To be honest, I don't really remember the stuff I wrote. It was a while ago, but
That's so fair.
it's gonna be good. Yeah. Look at communities. Look at all the other ones. Look at the cover. Yeah. It'll be a good final one for this year of the Courier and final one for your time as the editor-in-chief.
Well, we have one more.
Sorry.
We have the April issue, which is like our final.
Oh yeah, because this is all for May. My bad.
March.
Right.
It's okay.
You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying.
So we have 2 more issues coming out. We have March and then April, and then after that we're done. Just
yay.
Crazy to think how that went so fast. I don't know. It's weird, but we're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned a bunch of stuff. Thank you for listening to us ramble. It was great. Yeah.
And we'll see you next month.
We'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye.